Drum. And Mr. Randolph. Chairman, we have a quorum.
Thank you. Announcements, phones and pagers, please put them on vibrate or turn them off. Appeals, if you disagree with a decision that this group makes, you have the right to appeal it to the council. There are appeal cards to my right over here on the railing. Please pick up one, fill it out, and get it back into staff. Speaker cards, if you wish to speak on any item on the agenda, please fill out a card and turn it into staff so that we'll have record that you do want to speak. Each side will have 10 minutes on each item with a 5-minute rebuttal. After your case is heard, if you want to discuss anything, please exit the building. Don't go out in the lobby, exit the building, because even in the lobby the sound comes back. Please rise for the invocation by Mr. Randolph and the pledge by Mr. Willie.
Gracious Father, once again, we want to take this time out to thank you for all the blessings bestowed in our lives. We thank you for this day. Thank you for watching and protecting us. Thank you for this commission. We thank you for our citizens that we serve in the parish as well. And help us to make decisions that's in the best interest of this council as well as for the citizens we represent. And all these blessings we ask in your son Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Mr. Willie.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Commissioners, in your packet you had the minutes from the May 13th meeting. Hopefully you've had an opportunity to review. Are there any corrections that need to be made? I'll accept a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Davis to approve, seconded by Mr. Matthews. Please vote. Motion carries. Thank you. Consent calendar. Any items not pulled from the consent calendar are automatically dispensed by vote as approved and are as per staff comments. Items pulled from the consent calendar shall be discussed and voted upon individually. Staff, do we have any that needs to be pulled?
Yes, sir. I'd like to pull the third one under minor subdivision of MS 14-05-028.
Okay, that's the only one?
Yes, sir.
Any of the commissioners have any that needs to be pulled?
Yes, sir. I'd like to pull the first one, the interim parish right away.
Okay. Anyone else have one that needs to be pulled? I'll accept a motion on the balance.
So moved.
We have a motion by Mr. Matthews, seconded by
Richard.
Mr. Richard. Please vote. Motion carries. Thank you. First item under minor subdivisions is MS 14-05-025, Lot 1R into lots 1R1 and 1R2, Ward 9, District 14. The owner is Rotolo Consultants, the surveyors Kelly McHugh and Associates, Parish Council District Representatives, Honorable T.J.
Mr. Chairman, that wasn't pulled. It was the, I think they pulled the enter the right of way and then the third case under minor
I'm sorry.
subdivision.
I'm sorry. I thought you said the first under minor. All right, first one that was pulled, my mistake, entering the parish right-of-way, servitudes, easements, entering the parish right-of-way. Jim Core Road, Ward 2, District 3, request to enter parish right-of-way for the purpose of laying fiber optic cable. The debtors Southern Light LLC, the Parish Council District Representative Honorable James Red Thompson. Mr. Matthews.
The only thing I have some concern about is the only really thing we've been given is a general location map showing me where Jim Core Road is. I just think we ought to have a little more information as to where they're actually going to put fiber optics. Is it down the center line or one side or the other? How far is it going to go? We really don't have anything more than fiber optics and Jim Core Road. I really think that the staff ought to require them to do a little more than this general map and the general statement.
Okay, staff, you wanna,
Yeah, I believe once they get the approval for the enter the right of way, at that point, they would submit plans and we would know the exact details. It will definitely be within that right of way. Yeah, going to be running parallel to the road.
Well, I mean, we don't even have that. I mean, and is it gonna run the entire length of the road? It just, I really feel like this map is not much more information than the parish map I have at home or in my car, telling me where Jim Core Road is.
Right, I believe,
But, you know, the exact details, I understand, once they get permission, they'll come back with that. But they know, I would think, they're gonna run from point A to point B, and what is point A to point, is it the entire length, or what?
well, we don't have the plans yet.
Does it matter?
yes, sir.
Oh, great.
Wait just a moment, let me be sure the mic's on and turn towards him.
Yeah, it's Woodson Catlin with Southern Light.
Okay, sir.
I don't actually have the packet with me, but I think we generally get the approval first, and then we'll have plans to you. I mean, this stuff's been drawn, but I just didn't have anything here. Most of these things on the consent decree go through the first time, so we will definitely get you more clarification.
Well, in the future, I just think that we need to have a little something. Like I say, this map is nothing more than basically the map I have in my car, and I can figure out where Jim Core Road is. But, you know, are you going to run the entire length of Jim Core Road?
Well-
That would be nice to know.
No, sir, we're only running in Jim Core Road. It's going to be approximately like 500 feet coming.
Okay? Which end are you gonna be at?
We're coming off Highway 25 off the DOT right away, and then heading to there's a Sprint cell tower there.
Okay? Well, these are things I think we ought to know before we approve, you know, you're doing it. At least have some idea of what's going on, and the details, you know, how exactly wide it's gonna be, the depth, and all that kind of stuff. We don't need to know all those specifics.
Did
But I think
ins-
it's incumbent upon us to know where this is actually gonna be before we approve it. That's just my opinion.
So the cell tower is on the left side of the road, on the north side of Jim Core Road, so it'd probably, I would imagine it would follow the left side of that right of way.
Yeah,
Right away is right away.
You know, that's an excellent guess, but with the packet, I didn't know anything about the cell tower.
I,
Well, I know, but I didn't know
I
that that's
think-
where they were going.
I understand what Bill's saying, and
I don't.
and in the future, it would probably be nice to have a little bit more clarification, and staff would like to see that in our packet as well. So if you get something like this in the future, you know, ask for additional information, and it doesn't have to be specific. I mean, it's gonna be 500 foot, it's gonna be on Jim Core Road from Highway 25 going east for 500 feet or something like that. I mean, we don't care how deep it is or how wide the ditch is, if they're gonna bore under what and everything. Yes,
Mr.
Mr.
Doherty,
Shane?
yeah, Jeff Shane, I represent Southern Light in other matters. I didn't come tonight to represent them on this matter, but I might be able to help. I think that I can give you some basic information that would get you through this evening. The line would run around 500 feet west off of Highway 25, east rather, south side of the, north side of the right-of-way. North side of the right-of-way, about 3 feet inside the right-of-way line, about 3 feet deep, and there will be detailed drawings that will not only indicate where the cable will be run, how deep, et cetera, and that will also, what we would ask is that if you grant permission to enter the right-of-way, that it be subject to your staff approval of our plans and specs, so that if there's anything they see that they feel compromises entering the right-of-way in any way, we understand that we need to come back to you.
Jeff, I do not generally
And we
need
understand
that
what you're
kind
gonna,
of detail.
but we understand what you
But
expect
the
staff
kind
to
of
get next
detail
time.
we have, to me, is sorely lacking.
Yes, sir, no, I understand, and we're hearing you loud and clear for next time around.
Yeah, and
But
I'd
we're
like
hoping,
staff to be cognizant of the fact that, I mean, we don't need all that detail. We just need something to tell us basically what they're doing, and what we
Basically,
have
I
is not.
Reiterate, Okay.
Thank you, Jeff.
Yes, sir.
All right. All right, we pulled this and had discussion on it. Mr. Matthews, are you comfortable?
Motion to approve.
A motion to approve by Mr. Matthews, seconded by Mr. Davis. Mr. Randolph. Okay. We have a motion and a second. Please vote. Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. And we did not pull MS 1405-025, is that correct?
No,
Okay. Next item we pulled was,
28.
28.
This one right here.
okay. All right, on page 2, item at the top, MS 1405-028, track A and D, and a 2.95 acre parcel into tracks A1, A2, A3, and D, Ward 1, District 1. The owner is BCS Development LLC. The surveyor is John E. Bono and Associates. Parish Council District Representative, Honorable Marty Dean. Staff?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The owner is proposing to take 2 tracts, excuse me, within an existing minor subdivision, which are tracks A and D, as well as a 2.95 acre unplatted parcel, and create a total of 4 tracts of land, tracks A, A2, A3, and E. If you look on your surveys attached to your staff report, you'll see that the proposed tracks A, 3, and E do not meet the 1 acre minimum lot size requirement by code. It appears that the owner has an, excuse me, has enough involved in the proposed proposal to meet the lot size requirements. However, it is so noted that the parcels are zoned commercial, which would normally permit parcels less than 1 acre in size, if not for having to comply with the minor subdivision requirements. The staff does not recommend approval of the proposed minor subdivision request due to the fact that tracks A3 and E do not meet those minimum 1 acre requirements. Additionally, a waiver of the regulations is required in order to approve this minor subdivision request relative to the lot size issue. Therefore, a 2/3 majority vote of the full membership of the commission is required in order to approve pursuant to section 40-100 of ordinance 499 regulations. Furthermore, the creation of new internal property lines may cause issues with the owner being able to comply with parish landscape buffer and planning requirements, which in turn may require the owner to file for variances for said requirements to be reviewed by the St. Tammany Parish Board of Adjustments. Therefore, if the commission decides to grant the minor subdivision request waiver, staff recommends that the survey plat not be recorded for public record until the variance issues are resolved by the board.
Thank you. There's no comment by Department of Engineering or Environmental Services. Is there anyone here in the audience representing BCS Development?
Yes, sir. Matt Organ with Organ Properties.
Okay. You heard staff comments and everything. Is there anything that can be done to get this into the compliance that we need?
With respect to the lot size for this meeting here, I don't think there's anything that we would not be able to create these lots if we were going to fall into compliance with the minor subdivision application. So we do comply with zoning as per the zoning lot sizes that would be allowed in HC2, but not with the application. So the only thing I guess that could be done is I came a month ago and requested that we review that application and consider amending it, because these are commercial properties that would typically be allowed to subdivide less than 1 acre. So it's that 1 acre requirement in the minor subdivision that would be the only thing stopping this board to approve this, subject to what Mr. Keller spoke about, which would be the landscape setbacks and side yard buffers, which we will deal with in the August hearing with the Board of Adjustments. So we know that additional variances are required with respect to those interior lot lines. We are aware of that. We are not asking you to approve this and not pay attention to that. We are requesting this to be approved subject to those Board of Adjustment variances to be approved.
All right, Mr. Davis.
Yes, sir. So you're expected, this commission to give you a waiver of these regulations, and you're also expecting the Board of Adjustments to give you basically a waiver of the buffer and planning requirements. Is that correct?
I'm requesting a waiver from this board with respect to the 1 acre minimum on the commercial parcels. And then I anticipate, and it would be subject to, I'm not asking for an approval, I'm asking for an approval subject to the Board of Adjustments considering, and I know that a typical, I shouldn't say typical, but likely what I think may happen is we will either have to increase the landscaping requirements around the property and/or pay to the land bank fund with respect to those lot lines.
You have a lot of assumptions there, though, because what if we go ahead and give you the waiver for this, and the Board of Adjustments doesn't allow you to?
Then it doesn't happen. It denies.
Yeah, I'm going to have to agree with the planning and zoning people this time and make a motion to deny.
I'll second it.
All right, we have a motion by Mr. Davis to deny, a second by Mr. Matthews. Is there anyone else in the audience that wishes to speak on this, either for or against? Yes, sir. State your name and.
Hello, my name is Ed Murphy. I'm with Commercial Realty. And I also am working with BCS Development, Inc. on this property. And the main reason for the smaller lot sizes is that we have users that don't need more than an acre. They need less than an acre for their building. One of them is a veterinarian. She's got a certain size, footprint, and it's a commercial use. It's zoned commercial right there. We are asking. We do have another possible use of a grocery store back there. We're going to meet all the code for parking and drives, with each lot being self-contained. And there will be cross-access agreements from one lot, from one parcel to the next. We don't have any more C2 land available to us to accommodate larger parcels. So, that's why we're asking for the variance for the smaller lot size at this time. We're not going to be a nuisance, or we're not going to be pushing into somebody else's backyard or anything like that. These are all properties that front along Highway 1077. And it'll be bringing more commerce, it'll be bringing more business and adding jobs to the community over there that's needed. And, the other uses, like I said, it could be we have a possible use of a smaller restaurant use that have a drive-through, but once again, it'd be a smaller building. It's only about 1,500 square foot. So they don't need a 1 acre parcel. And there's quite a few retailers nationally that would like to come into this area, but they're not going to go buy a 1 acre parcel when their prototype plans don't require that. So we're really, not making it available for other possible uses to come in. If we expect everybody to take an acre, we're going to miss out on a lot of business.
Yeah, but on that note too, you could actually come up and ask for 2 additional lots and make them all 1/4 acre lots.
But we already have specific uses in mind
Well,
for
I
these.
understand.
We're not gonna.
Right, but
Yeah,
you understand my point
and
of view.
quarter acre lots really wouldn't be, I don't think, functionally, it wouldn't be feasible.
Right, it wouldn't be feasible, especially if you also have to worry about all the buffers and.
Right, exactly.
all the
So we wouldn't
landscape.
do
But again,
that.
this is the problem we're having with the half acre as well. We've had this problem before up on this board, and a lot of times we just go ahead and just grant waivers. I think sometimes we have to think about these things and just, again, if we deny it, doesn't mean it's not gonna happen, because it can always overturn this and go to the council, but that's just my suggestion.
Yeah, and that's what I understand too, that
Yeah.
the board has looked at other similar situations and have granted it. So, we're hoping that we could get the same approval here, because we're not out to try to, do something crazy down the line. We already know specifically what we're trying to do. And the Madisonville Marketplace Shopping Center is a beautiful center, and we're not gonna do anything to detriment of the tenants that are in there or the look. Everything is gonna be first class.
Yeah, while I appreciate all that, if we keep making the same precedent, it's gonna get to the point where we're just doing this all the time.
Well, I understand that, and we also are investigating, changing that ordinance so that you don't have to see this all the time. Because there'll be many more instances, I think, where retailers are going to want to go someplace, but then they won't be able to.
Right. Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Lloyd?
Could I ask a question of one of these two gentlemen, please? Do you have a copy of the map, the plat?
Yes, sir.
The one that's in our packet,
Yes.
Yeah.
that one. The tract E is the northern boundary of that where it shows portable building, is that a snowball stand?
Yes.
What are you gonna do with the snowball stand? The line's gonna go right through the middle of the snowball stand.
It's not a permanent building, it's just sitting there, it can easily be moved. And it really was never occupied until just recently. One of Mr. Bruno's employees wanted to open it up, so he said, yes, but we're going to be developing this property, so don't get too comfortable there.
Well, the only problem with that is Highway 1077, just to the south of this development, is where you start entering into the residential area. And the snowball stand has always been kind of the line in the dirt, where commercial is going to be to the north and residential will be to the south. And now you're going to, once again, encroach over into Lot E, which is one more lot to the south.
No, it's all, the snowball stand where it's situated is, there's gonna be a small building that's situated out there on, with parking and driveway for the veterinarian clinic out on Highway 1077. It won't be a big building.
We're not creating more commercial zoning. This is currently zoned. This tract, the parent tract, if you will, is currently zoned HC2. It is the last commercial tract.
The concern I think you've heard from the other gentleman and as well as myself is we've got rules. It's kind of like a football game, and right in the middle of the football game, you say, well, I don't like the way the game's being played, so I'm going to change the rules. I'm going to ask for variance. Field goals will now count for 5 points, okay? And that's the concern. You're saying, please approve this variance. Based on it, we'll get another variance. So we're going to change the rules twice.
Well, I think the variance, I appreciate that comment, and the variance that we're requesting here is based upon a law that is intended, it actually creates the variance request. Because what we're asking to do here is in accordance with HC2 zoning. But so if someone were to show up in St. Tammany Parish and look up HC2 zoning, they would see that they could create a parcel of 20,000 square feet with 80 feet of frontage and meet other requirements. This parcel meets those requirements with respect to the size of it. But they would also be, if they come to the parish, then the parish would also say, well, you can't do that because we have a minor subdivision application process that has a 1 acre minimum in it. And so, yes, I do understand we are requesting other variances because of our internal lot lines. But the law that's in place is, the only reason we're even coming is because that law contradicts the zoning of the property.
Mr. Randolph?
Ron, and you just give me a second. When does the Board of Adjustments meet?
Well, they meet on every first Tuesday of the month, but they haven't filed their application yet. So once, so they should be in line if they, depending on the decision of this board, to file for the August meeting.
Okay. And the Board of Adjustments, as I can appreciate it, is going to make a decision on the waiver of the law as he stated for those two lots, which is Lot E and Lot
Well, when you-
A1.
Well, when you create the internal when you create internal property lines, you create new buffers on each side of those lines. You have a 10-foot landscape buffer on both sides that's now being created that obviously may conflict with the existing layout of the property, maybe parking or cement or whatever. So they would have to, if they can't meet the requirements as far as planting the ground and putting in the Class A and Class B trees along those new property lines, then they have to ask for a variance. It is a standard. It's happened quite often recently where we've had a lot of requests. Last month when we had the minor subdivision on Dove Park Road right down here where they had McDonald's and the little strip mall, same thing happened with them. They cut the property in half and they got a waiver through the Board of Adjustments of those buffers, and they paid to the tree mitigation bank in lieu of having to put in those trees. So that's typically what we do in these kind of cases.
Mr. Matthews.
To me, the biggest problem is not that we're creating the less than 1 acre lots. We have done that before, and while that's not the biggest problem, it is a problem. I think that if there's a problem with our zoning code, then that needs to be taken up more at the council rather than us granting variances one after another after another. To me, the biggest problem is the fact that you are almost assuredly going to the Board of Adjustments. So what we do here tonight, if we approve this, is we're giving a problem to the Board of Adjustments. And quite frankly, when I served on the Board of Adjustments, I would not have been real happy about you guys doing that. You're going to have less than the proper and losing my train of thought. You're going to have less than what we require for buffer.
Yes, sir.
You're going to have to have less than what we require for tree planting. Why do we want to set this up to go to the Board of Adjustments to maybe have it and maybe not? I think what we need to be doing is having people follow our rules. The rules don't seem to fit what you want to do, so you're asking us, well, please ignore these rules and give us waivers and exemptions from these rules. I don't think we ought to be doing that. I really don't. I think you haven't given me enough reason to want to change this, because you have some clients that, I really don't need a full acre. I'd rather have a half acre. Well, maybe they need to have their place of business in another location that they can have a half acre. What the parish requires is 1 acre. What if you have a client that wants a 25-foot frontage? That's all they really need. Do we give you a waiver for that? I don't think so.
But that would be a zoning question, and we're not trying to change zoning.
I know what you're trying to do, but what you're asking for is to allow less than what we require in zoning. You're going to come back here and have a tiny little thing for one of the old, what we used to have, the film kiosk things. They probably need very, very little. Should we then change everything to allow those if they were developing film anymore, which they're not? But I don't think we ought to be doing this. It's just, I think, no good reason to do it, and I agree with staff.
Ms. Casabon, I'm going to recognize you, but Mr. Savant would like to make a comment.
You want him to make, okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Only to offer to the commissioners, if they don't already appreciate this, there may be some questions concerning zoning versus subdivision regulations. And I want to make sure that the commissioners realize, and I'm sure you do, that there is a difference between the two. Zoning is all about land use, whether a particular type of use is permitted within a certain zoning classification, whether it be residential, whether it be commercial, whether it be industrial or institutional or medical, you get my point. Then there is a totally different aspect of parish regulations concerning development, which has to do with subdivision regulations. The subdivision of property
consistent with its underlying zoning. To suggest that zoning regs and subdivision regs conflict, that, I would suggest to you that that's not possible. They work together, and currently our regulations do work together. A zoning reg is not necessarily going to dictate how a piece of property is subdivided. It may establish minimum standards or minimum lot sizes when and if a property is subdivided, but it is not going to dictate on how it will be subdivided. Same thing, subdivision regulations will not dictate how a particular property is going to be zoned. So those two aspects of development within this parish need to be treated separately, but at the same time realize that they do work together in the overall planning for development of this parish. I hope that helps.
Thank you, Mr. Savant. Ms. Casabon?
Yes, Mr. Savant, that kind of sums up, looking at this on paper, and I just told Mr. Long, it's just, you know, when you think of this being commercial, once I realized exactly where it was, that we're looking at a piece of commercial area that is already developed, very thriving, within a community that a lot of the community people use this particular area. I do myself. It's convenient to get to on and off the interstate. And I think we need to look at this body as one that we're not really, I don't want to really stop commercial usage of this land. I think they're still going to have to go through our regs, like I said, of being able to put the landscaping in or else mitigate if it's not possible. And this particular area, we're talking about, Ron, like in between these two, like where the medium is and stuff like that.
Where the internal lot lines have been created.
Right, and you know how they come in.
Yes.
And sometimes, I know we have beautiful landscaping, but sometimes we put trees in that don't really fit and, you know, within an area. I don't really have a problem with the under acre lot size. I think that it is an appropriate area for commercial that we need to keep growing, but within this size, what could go on these lots and stuff. For the community area, for the people that live around that area, but also with the condition that they would meet the landscaping requirements at the Board of Adjustments. I don't think we're creating a problem for the Board of Adjustments. That's what they're there for. But I don't feel like we need to take this, you know, out of commerce by saying, oh, you don't have an acre lot. That they will, I'm sure, and our regs would be able to put in a building that for parking and landscaping, a business that would fit on this particular acreage. And that's, I don't have a problem with it.
Thank you, Ms. Casabon. I don't see any more lights on, so I'm gonna call for the vote. Now, a yes vote, the motion is to deny. So a yes vote would concur with denying. Please vote. We got 5 yeas, 6 nays. 5 yeas, 6 nays, so the motion fails. Or motion to deny carries. All right?
Do we? No. No, it did not.
I made a motion to deny.
So it just
My
denied.
motion
Failed.
passed or failed.
No, it failed, I'm sorry.
It failed.
It failed. So we need,
And a motion to,
I'll make a motion that it be approved.
we have a motion to approve.
subject to the waiver.
Subject to not recording the
Not
plats unless the Board of
right, not
Adjustment
recording the
favors
plat.
variance,
Right,
granting
that's correct.
variances.
Correct.
All right.
Who's the second?
We got a motion by Mr. Hines. Who second? Second by the drum. All right, please vote. You got 7 yeas, 3 nays, so the motion will carry to approve.
Wait, you need 8 votes to grant the waiver. So you need to vote, Mr. Dougherty.
So it still fails,
Still fails.
okay?
That's
You're gonna have to appeal it to the council.
Thank you.
All right. I got that. That's the end of the consent calendar. Mr. Matthews, I believe, in final subdivision, there was a request to move up an
Yes,
item.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to move SD 1204002 FIV up to the front of this calendar, please.
Thank you. We have a motion to move up SD 1204-002 FIV. Do I hear a second? Second by Mr. Randolph. Please vote. Motion carries. Staff? This is SD, the last item on the final subdivision review.
Are you gonna go through and do the developer and read all that, or you just want me to go ahead and start the staff comments?
You need to, let me catch up with it. This is North Park. Yeah, you need to read the engineering into the record.
Periodic inspections have been made by this office during construction, and the final inspection was made on 5/29/14. The inspection disclosed that all concrete roads are constructed, road shoulders are constructed, roadside ditches are functioning, and the detention ponds are functioning. The following minor uncompleted items exist at the time of final inspection and will be completed before the plats are signed. A has been okayed since this draft came out. B has also been okay. C, developer signature is needed on the subdivision plat. Blue reflectors are needed at all fire hydrants. And then E is also okay now. Should the planning commission approve the request for final approval, a warranty obligation will be required for the infrastructure and the amount of 5237 linear feet at $25 per linear foot and the amount of $131,000 for a period of 5 years. This includes the off-site portion of Village Lane West. The staff recommends approval of the proposed final subdivision request, subject to the developer complying with all comments, and no plats to be signed until all items are satisfactorily completed. Since the developer has no end users, the mandatory developmental fees are not due prior to signing the subdivision plat, but are due upon building permit application. Department of Environmental Services has comments.
A negative bacteriological report relative to the construction of the project's water system has not yet been issued by DHH as required by Section 4070 of the Subdivision Regulatory Ordinance 499. A letter of acceptance and responsibility for the perpetual maintenance and operation of the water and sewer system has not yet been issued by the utility provider as required. Staff recommends approval of the proposed final subdivision request subject to the developer complying with all comments, and no plats are to be signed until all items are satisfactorily completed. Development has no comments.
Thank you. Mr. Shane.
Thank you, Mr. Dougherty. Jeff Shane of the Jones Fussell Law Firm in Covington. I represent the subdivision owner and developer, and I appreciate you moving this item up on the agenda because I have some other plans this evening that I need to take care of. We are in full accord with staff comments. Some of those items have been completed. The others are pending and will be submitted in short order. We would appreciate your grant of final approval at this time.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Shane. Anyone else in the audience wish to speak on this item? I'll close the floor to the public, bring it back to the commission. Mr. Davis.
Yeah, Jeff, lot number 6 is not part of this, is that correct?
Let me find lot 6.
It's not?
It is not a part of 4A.
So it's just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5A, 5B, and 13 and 14, correct?
Yes.
Okay. I'll make a motion to approve.
We have a motion by Mr. Davis to approve, a second by Mr. Richard. Mr. Matthews.
Jeff, I have just two, I guess, rudimentary questions, but When can we expect the negative biological report? And when can we expect the utility provider to accept this?
The negative report has actually been completed, but we just don't have a copy yet in hand, but we've verified that it's done.
Good.
So I think it's physically being transmitted. So I'm going to guess that's a day or two or
Okay.
three. And I know that the utility provider letter is pending, so I think same situation.
Is there a problem with it pending, or is it just
No, we just
paperwork?
haven't physically received it, but there's no problem.
Okay.
You think within a week? Within a week, we should have it.
All right, Mr. Randolph.
Jeff? One question. Just for clarification, in the event I missed something, F through J, the minor exceptions, are those okay? Did I miss that?
You might be looking at a different report.
The last one? Okay, I'm sorry.
That's
I'm sorry.
okay.
Is that satisfied?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. We have no lights on. Any further discussion? We have a motion to approve. Please vote. Motion carries. Thank you. Thank you. All right, back up to the top under final subdivision review, SD 05-08-019 F1B, Hidden Creek Phase 1B, Ward 1, District 3. Developer owner Hidden Creek LLC. Engineers Randall W. Brown and Associates Incorporated. This is in Parish Council District Representatives Honorable James Red Thompson. Staff.
Periodic inspections have been made by this office during construction, and the final inspection was made on 5/29/2014. The inspection disclosed that all concrete roads are constructed, road shoulders are constructed, and the roadside ditches need final grading. The following minor uncompleted items existed at the time of final inspection and will be completed before the plats are signed. Tabulation of driveway culvert sizes and type of material required is needed on the subdivision plat. Blue reflectors are needed at fire hydrants. Developer's engineer needs to certify that the signposts are in accordance with MUTCD and federal standards. The typical street cross-section is needed on the subdivision plat. On the as-built, we do have that now. Items E, F, and G are okay. Should the Planning Commission approve the request for final approval, the warranty obligation will be required for the infrastructure in the amount of 947 linear feet at $25 per linear foot, and the amount of $23,700 for a period of 5 years. The staff recommends approval of the proposed final subdivision request subject to the developer complying with all comments and no plats to be signed until all items are satisfactorily completed. Mandatory developmental fees are required as follow. The road impact fee will be $18,309. The drainage impact fee will be $18,938. Fees are due before subdivision plats can be signed. Department of Environmental Services has comments.
Comment number 1 has been addressed. Number 2, water as-built were submitted, but fire hydrants were missing from the as-built, so they still need to be resubmitted. Number 3 is okay. Number 4, negative bacteriological report relative to the construction of the project's water system has not yet been issued by DHH as required by Section 4070 of the Subdivision Regulatory Ordinance 499. Staff recommends approval of the proposed final subdivision request, subject to the developer complying with all comments, and no plats are to be signed until all items are satisfactorily completed. Development has no comments.
Thank you. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I'm representing Hidden Creek, Joe Mistage. We'll follow through on all the remaining items. We definitely got our bacteria sample, negative came back. We just haven't gotten into the office. The contractor submitted it yesterday. I know that was a question for the last person. I wanted to answer it before you asked.
Thank you.
All right. I see no lights on. Do I hear a motion to approve? Moved by Mr. Matthews, seconded by Mr. Willie. To approve, please vote. Mr. Casabon, Okay, all right, so motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next item is SD 12-04-001 F2A2, Grand Oaks Phase 2A2, Ward 1, District 1. Developers, Trinity Developers, engineers Kelly McHugh and Associates, Parish Council District Representatives, Honorable Marty Dean. Staff?
Periodic inspections have been made by this office during construction, and the final inspection was made on 5/29/2014. The inspection disclosed that the asphalt roads are constructed, road shoulders are constructed, and the roadside ditches are functioning. The following minor uncompleted items existed at the time of the final inspection and will be completed before the plats are signed. Floppy disk, our latest format, is needed for the as-built and subdivision plat. Engineer's stamp is needed on the as-built. Developer's signature is needed on the subdivision plat. Swales at the rear and side of lots are functioning. However, erosion protection is needed to prevent siltation from blocking drainage from off-site. All roadways are existing and are currently under warranty in a previous phase. The staff recommends approval of the proposed final subdivision request subject to the developer complying with all comments and no plats to be signed until all items are satisfactorily completed. Mandatory development fees are required as follow. Road impact fees are $5,385. Drainage impact fees are $5,570. Fees are due before subdivision plats can be signed. Department of Environmental Services has comments.
A negative bacteriological report relative to the construction of the project's water system has not yet been issued by DHH as required by 4070 of the Subdivision Regulatory Ordinance 499. A letter of acceptance and responsibility for the perpetual maintenance and operation of the water and sewer system has not yet been issued by the utility provider as required. Staff recommends approval of the proposed final subdivision request subject to the developer complying with all comments, and no plats are to be signed until all items are satisfactorily completed. Development has no comments.
Thank you. Mr. Marone.
Thank you, Mr. Daugherty. Paul Marone on behalf of Trinity Developers. This small phase in Grand Oaks, the 5 lots, actually was intended to be part of the prior, much larger phase. Once all of the infrastructure was in, there was a concern about the drainage on these lots, and our engineer needed some additional time to work with the parish engineers to make sure that we address that properly. That's the swales that are referenced in the staff comments that are now duly installed and constructed and working properly. So that was the delay in bringing these lots online. That work is now completed. We do still have to have the erosion control, which we had hoped to have out there today. Because of the weather, we couldn't do that. In this instance, with such a small area, the erosion control is going to amount to either the hydromulch or we're going to just sod what's there. So the hope is that as soon as the weather clears, we're prepared to do that, and we'll have that done right away. The comments by Environmental Services, the infrastructure on these lots for sewer and water were put in at the same time as the remaining phase that it was once part of. So we expect that that bacteriological report to come back negative any day. As soon as that's done, then Mr. McHugh's utility company will be issuing the letter of acceptance. So we expect all of this to be wrapped up in very short order. With that said, we would respectfully request your approval of final subdivision for these 5 additional lots.
Thank you, Mr. Marone. Anyone else in the audience wish to speak on this item? I'll close the floor to the public, bring it back to the commission. Moved by Mr. Hines to approve, seconded by Mr. Matthews. Any further discussion? Please vote. Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item is SD 04-08-024 F4, Beatico Creek, Phase 4, Ward 1, District 1. Developer owner, Beatico Creek Preserve LLC. Engineers Kelly McHugh and Associates Incorporated. Parish Council District Representative is Honorable Marty Dean. Staff?
Periodic inspections have been made by this office during construction, and the final inspection was made on 5/29/2014. The inspection disclosed that all concrete roads are constructed, road shoulders are constructed, and the roadside ditches are functioning. The following minor uncompleted items existed at the time of the final inspection and will be completed before the plats are signed. Need base test results, need ditch invert elevations at each property corner, Need floppy disk or latest format for as-built and subdivision plat. Need engineer stamp on as-built drawings. Need 911 addresses on each lot on the subdivision plat. Need developer signature on subdivision plat. Need street name signs. Need traffic signs. Developers engineers need to certify that the signage and posts conform to MUTCD standards. Typical street cross-sections show 4-inch asphalt when the roadways are concrete. Revise the as-built drawings and the subdivision plats to show what was built. Should the Planning Commission approve the request for final approval, a warranty obligation will be required for the infrastructure in the amount of 2,060 linear feet at $25 per linear foot, a value of $51,500 for a period of 5 years. The staff recommends approval of the proposed final subdivision request subject to the developer complying with all comments and no plats to be signed until all items are satisfactorily completed. No mandatory development fees are required since a public hearing was held prior to January 1st, 2005. The Department of Environmental Services has comments.
Provide Tammany Utilities with a complete set of as-built drawings. Negative bacteriological report relative to the construction of the project's water system has not yet been issued by DHH as required by Section 4070 of the Subdivision Regulatory Ordinance Number 499. A letter of acceptance and responsibility for the perpetual maintenance and operation of the water and sewer system has not yet been issued by the utility provider as required. The staff recommends approval of the proposed final subdivision request subject to the developer complying with all comments, and no plats are to be signed until all items are satisfactorily completed. Development has no comments.
Mr. Morone.
Thank you, Mr. Darney. Paul Morone again on behalf of Beatico Creek Preserve for Phase 4 of Beatico Creek. Many of these items were addressed in a package today, which was delivered to the engineering staff. In particular, the base test results have now been submitted. The ditch invert elevations have been provided. The engineer's stamp on the as-built has been done. The 911 addresses on each lot have been put on the subdivision plat. The developer's signature on this particular plat is not required as all of the streets are private, so there is no dedication requiring the developer's signature. The street signs and traffic signs were installed on Friday and are operational. And finally, the typical street section as referenced in item J has been addressed and corrected. So at this time, in regards to item number 2, under engineering, the only outstanding issues would be item C, the floppy disk, and item I, the letter from the engineer certifying that the signage and posts are conform to the MUTCD standards, both of which we should have very quickly. In regards to the Department of Environmental Services, the negative bacteriological report is completed. My understanding is that it was delivered later this afternoon as well. Staff probably hadn't had a chance to look at that, but that is done. With that being done, we would expect that the letter of acceptance would be coming shortly, and which would then clear all of the other items remaining once we submit our as-bills, which again, we expect to have done hopefully within the next few days at the longest period. So with that said, that pretty well takes care of any and all items left on here. The few that are remaining are cleanups, which we will do very shortly. We would respectfully request your approval of Phase 4 of Beatico Creek.
Thank you, Mr. Morone. Anyone else in the audience wish to speak on this item? I'll close the floor to the public, bring it back to the commission. Mr. Davis.
Yes, I'll make a motion to approve. Just one point, though.
Yes.
How'd Beatico Creek do today with all this rain?
I did not go out there, so I don't know the answer to that.
Yeah, I know we go out and check the roadside ditches and everything, but we usually do that when it's dry, correct? I only say that because it was on the TV the other day about some serious flooding issues out there just during a drain period. So I'm just questioning that just to make sure. Do we ever go back and look at these things after like a torrential rain just to make sure everything's working functionally?
We do. When we have issues, either complaint driven or we just seen it out there in our final inspection, we'll go back out there after a rain event to check it out.
I appreciate it.
And I would also point out in that regard, Mr. Davis, you know, part of our warranty obligation is not just the streets, but it is the functionality of those roadside ditches. So your staff will have another look at this down the road once the subdivision matures, and if we have siltation or problems with flow, before we can get our warranty obligation released, we'll have to get in there and clean that up.
You know, well, thank you for following up on that too. I appreciate that. Again, I make a motion to approve.
We have a motion and a second to approve. I don't know if this was your subdivision. There was a gentleman in here before the meeting, something to do with drainage on Brewster Road, but he was getting a lot of flooding, and he said he had talked to you, Paul, so I didn't get his name. I don't know. Did you get his name, Lauren? No. But anyway, we told him to call your office and get with him. So.
Okay, yeah, I've gotten a number of complaints from people along Brewster Road, and when I went out during, the Wednesday we had all that flooding, I drove through a lot of water flowing across Brewster Road, so,
That's what he was
yeah.
Okay.
And I don't think that has anything to do with
No,
Beatico
it doesn't have
Creek.
anything to do with this at
Yeah,
all.
that's, just to be clear, that's, that issue is not with Beatico Creek.
All right, we have
Lest
a
anybody
motion
get
and a
confused.
second to approve, please vote. I just wanted to see if you were paying attention. Motion carries, thank you. All right.
Subject to it not raining.
Yeah, right.
Well, unfortunately, we needed a little bit of rain, but not like that came down. All right, that's the last item on the item. Do I hear a motion to adjourn? We have a motion to adjourn. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen.
You have a good one, sir.